بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى صحابته المنتجبين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Seyed Mahdi Qazwini. I am an Islamic educator located in Claremont, California, and it's my distinct honor to present this interview with Helwa, who is the author of Secrets of Divine Love, a spiritual journey into the heart of Islam. As you all may know, the book has won the award for Best Devotional Text, and this is being presented by the Center for Global Muslim Life in the context of the Global Muslim Social and Spiritual Impact Awards. So we have with us Helwa, who is here today, who has agreed to share with us some of her time, some of her wisdom and knowledge, inshallah, just so we can gain, uh, further understanding of the purpose of this text, objectives, and how it has reached such a great spiritual reach, mashallah. So, Helwa, I know uh, you've decided to remain anonymous, which is admirable. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to continue your reach. But if you can just give us a little bit of a glimpse into this text, what was the journey like? What did you have in mind when you first started this journey? What was the purpose? What were you trying to establish? Who were you trying to reach?
Assalamu alaikum, and yeah, thank you for um, taking the time to have this conversation with me. Um, Said Mahdi is somebody I look up to, and his knowledge and his sincerity in the way that he approaches his faith and the way that he approaches people. So I feel really grateful to be having this conversation with you, um, and you're being very humble because you're like an integral part of my experience in creating this book and um, taking the time to listen to my questions and read some of what I wrote and help me make it better. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I think a lot of that journey for me in creating this book was around my own spiritual journey and my own seeking and the 1,001 questions of why that I had asked throughout my life and wanting to just collect something for myself, first of all, um, that I could give my friends or people who asked about Islam. And I could feel confident that, inshallah, that they would find something of benefit in it without feeling like I was imposing or being too preachy. Because I've just learned so much from Buddhist texts and Christianity and the mystics of Judaism. And I just wanted my hope, my desire, my wish, my prayer was that I could be a part of creating something that would be the same for Islam in the English language. There's so many incredible texts as people who speak Arabic or Farsi or Urdu could say, but I felt like in English to have something hopefully that was like universal. Um, and so the journey in creating it was a jihad in a way. It was like a striving against the places where I felt incapable. And I still every day do feel incapable of being even having a pseudonym of an anonymous finger pointing to this anonymous person here. I feel incapable of that, and I feel like in a way it's become a great reminder of my desperate need for God for Allah to like keep helping me walk this path. And only with his help can things happen that are miraculous because where this might just be a book for people and I hope it serves them. For me, I'm aware of my incapabilities. I'm aware of the tools in my toolbox and I can't make sense of how this book came about from what I have in my hand. So that space, that gap between my ability and what was created, I constantly see that as a reflection of God's mercy, and for that I'm grateful every day.
Mashallah. I mean, well, it's a pleasure for me to just be part of that journey and really an honor. And I've learned so much. Um, I was looking for my copy of the book. Uh, and so it just so happened that my wife was traveling out of town. And out of all of the books she could have picked up, she picked up that one and took it with her. And it is very special and very close to us. Helwa, you mentioned this being a reflection of your own personal spiritual journey. And for as long as I've known you, one thing that has stood out is I would say your authenticity and your willingness to be vulnerable and the fact that you embrace imperfections and you've helped so many people in that regard. So many of the youth that I know that are connected to you have been empowered because of your ability to embrace imperfections and make something beautiful out of it. So my question is spiritually, and there are people who are tuning in right now who are at all stages of their spiritual journey. Maybe some haven't even identified a spiritual journey or path. How important is it to embrace our vulnerabilities? How important it is it to connect to God through our vulnerabilities, through our imperfections?
That's a great question. I often feel like in the spiritual journey, or really any journey, we avoid the door of neediness and vulnerability more than anything. We avoid it more than probably the coronavirus. I mean, I know people who would rather um, get corona than be vulnerable in a public setting. Like we really, really avoid that feeling. And I remember reading this. One mystic said that um, the doors of um, richness and blessing are crowded. Those doors are crowded on the path to God, but the door of neediness is pretty vacant. And so you'll have a easier chance, going straight to the divine presence through that door. And it was just I felt like what that was saying was that when we are needy, we actually are in the perfect position to experience God as a samad, the self-sufficient. Like we are in the perfect position to experience God's greatness when we feel lowly. Like in our broken states, we're able to really taste something of God's perfection. And if we take this reality as being an opportunity to know God, to love and to worship God, and that's our purpose, in our brokenness, we have an opportunity to get closer to manifesting that purpose on earth. And so suddenly, our weakest moments become, as Jesus said, what you boast in. I boast in my weakness, for in my weakness, I taste of your strength. And I feel like it's so hard because our ego wants everything but that. And scholars throughout time have spoken to that nafs, that ego that wants lordship, that it is the opposing voice of neediness and surrender is I am better, that I can do it. My way is the right way. It's the voice of the shaitan that says, based on outer appearances, decides what's better and what's worse, not knowing anything of the inward reality. And so when we say, I am needy, we're actually being catapulted to the highest realities through surrender because our Lord's generosity and mercy is experienced most notably when we're so I think important. And I think that I would say, just for me personally, like I have gained more from being incapable than I have of knowing and being capable. And um, I have gained so much more than being in a state of wonder and the unknown than I have from knowing something. And to this day, when I'm humbled by a scenario, and I'm humbled by my own ignorance, I find that it opens a door inside of me, to humility that um, that no amount of striving can reach. And I think that just the last thought on that is like that's the real amazing thing about surrender is that you can't reach it by doing. You reach it by letting go of the doing. You reach it by kun, by be, and everything is. Suddenly everything is perfect as it was. And that surrender, it begins the journey. It's like the striving begins after that, really. Um, Another way of saying that is that um, it's like surrendering is like plugging in um, like a motor. Like you can't start it until you plug in, and I feel like that's what surrender is. It's that plugging in, and then the journey begins.
That's so beautiful. That's amazing. I love the way that you describe that. And, especially in a society which promotes radical individualism, that word surrender has almost become like a dirty S word, right?
Mm, mhm, mhm.
So it's to embrace that and have that become your, I guess, your launching pad in your connection to God is so powerful, and it goes over so many people's heads, I think, in this day and age.
And then it feels like important to say also is that surrender is not passive.
Mm.
It's not you surrender because you're unable or because you're afraid or in the sense that you when I say surrender, I mean an active surrender. I mean when you say La ilaha illallah, when you say there is no God but God, that is a active declaration that there's nothing in existence and nothing can come into existence without Allah. And that everything you see is a contingent existence except that of Allah. That nothing could be and have form without His continual sustaining of it. That's not passive, that's an active, consistent declaration that you live in your existence. And surrender is active. It's saying every moment that I have a choice. I have a choice to turn to self management, or I have a choice to turn to God. And I choose to turn to Allah and let Him guide me. But it doesn't mean I don't wake up every morning striving for things that I think are important and valuable. It's just that I don't try to own the outcome of those things. I don't try to project what I think would be best to happen, that I surrender the outcome to Allah and trust that He knows what's best. It's like the Yusuf's father thing, telling his brothers, enter the town from different gates. But then he says at the end, like, but I trust Allah and I know that what will happen. That that no matter what gate you enter, right, into the kingdom, you're going to reach the king.
Mhm.
But that the Allah know, but we still try our best, but that we surrender to that outcome. Yeah.
I love that. Not trying to own the outcome. That's very powerful. And yet we spend so much of our time trying to own the outcome that we don't even start the process in the first place.
Mm, it's true.
Yeah.
SubhanAllah.
Helwa, can I ask you, when you first started the journey of writing this book, um, I mean, did you envision that it would have this type of spiritual and social reach? I mean, mashallah, based on what I understand, just off of these awards that are presented, there were about 90 countries represented in voting participation, and alhamdulillah, the book has had
Hmm.
a global reach, people from around the world. Did you did you envision that? Did you plan that?
I definitely did not. Um, I didn't know at all, actually. I had no real idea if a book like this would be received in this way. I knew that I had to do everything I could to get it to the person or the few people that I felt like prayed for something like this. And like in the introduction, it's a very odd paragraph, I've been told. But then at which I talk about the prayer of a stranger that I felt at some point. And I'm not this like person who like feels people's prayers and hears all these things or something like that. It was just a feeling in my heart that I felt like someone prayed for this. Like, what is this push behind me that I can't understand? What is this passion inside of me that I can't put words to? What is this? All these people coming out of their way to help. What is this? And when it dawned on me that, like, it could just be one sincere prayer that somebody made, that a lot, like, I felt in that teaching was like, I will use whoever I will, like, to answer a sincere prayer of someone I love. And that
Mm.
just to be a part of that was so humbling that I could have spent like thousands of hours for I don't even know and I never will probably meet. And then to know that the book came out and to get dozens of messages of people saying I was that person, feeling like that odd paragraph that my editor was like, "You should remove this. This is very odd." That there are dozens of people, and that's enough for me. Even if it was one person that said that paragraph spoke to me, like I feel just a little bit more seen because of that. And I felt like satisfied. Like I remember feeling really satisfied that somebody um, felt seen. And and of course, I'm happy that people receive the book in different countries. And but I think more than anything, it was like those people that it was meant for. Um, that if they reached it and continuing to make sure that those people, whoever that is, whoever made that prayer, like has access to the book. I think it becomes more important to me than anything. Um, just because I felt like Allah plucked me out of this wilderness of being lost and gave me the blessing of guidance when I did nothing to deserve it. It's not like I did something for it. And I felt like I was freely given a gift. And then I felt like just like making sure that I act in the same way to someone else. And so for me, that was like it became important. And my journey now is to continue to try my best that everybody who wants this book can receive it, even if it's in hard to reach places and hard to reach countries um and just learning about the publishing world and how people won't try for certain countries like Indonesia or Sri Lanka or the Philippines, and they won't try to get English books to those countries because it has no financial gain or it's too
Mm.
difficult or people will pirate copies. And I never knew like that this was like being in America and having access to every book I wanted and I want, that this is a reality some people live in. That for the economics of it, people don't try to get them. So I became like kind of passionate and obsessed about finding ways to getting this book to populations that don't normally get it. And so the success of it lends a hand for me to do that. And for that, I'm grateful. I think more than anything, probably.
Mashallah, that's so profound. And the lesson I take from that is if you're on a journey, if you're doing good, whatever it is, whether it's writing, whether it's developing content, whether it's teaching, that you owe it to the person who's praying for you or who's praying for this content, even though they may not know who you are and they may not know exactly what they're praying for, to continue striving.
Mm,
Um, because if it, and that to me is very inspirational. It basically says don't quit whatever you're doing. Um, because you don't know who's praying to get their hands on this type of content and this type of information. Uh, and I know personally, um,
mm,
just because of our personal relationship, the people that I know personally whose lives are turning around because they're reading it from you. I've had, you know, university professors who are chairs of religious studies programs reach out to me and ask me for a recommendation. Hey, do you recommend this book? And I thought, I think to myself, Subhanallah. I mean, um, the caliber of people who are asking for recommendations on this book, and obviously, I know you didn't have that specifically in mind. It was just to get it out to people who needed it the most, no matter where they are in the world.
Hmm. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah
Mhm.
Rabbil Alameen. So can I ask you, what's next? Is there a part two? Is there a program that follows? Is there, you know, I'm sure you've come up with some sort of plan. If you're able to share with us and just build up that anticipation and excitement for people who want more.
Sure. Um, well, I've been spending the past few months working on actually a prison course.
Mm,
I knew like right off the bat, like pretty much the week the book came out, I was like, how do I get into libraries and how do I get the book into prison? And those were like the two places like I wanted, like I felt like the prayer I had when the book came out was, Allah, just give me the opportunity to like get this book. I want it to be in the hands of people who are going through it, and I wanted to reach people that I felt like I saw a reflection of myself in when I was struggling, and I felt like so much blessing came to me, and so off the bat, I had this, like, prayer in my heart, and then a couple months ago, one of my friends who found, Islam in prison, I messaged him, and actually a follower of my blog, just like she bought, like, 80 books, and she said, "I want you to give this to whoever you think needs it."
mm,
And I thought, like, this is the beginning, like, I'd love to do something with prison. And so when I talked to my friend, he said, like, "Yeah, let's make a course." And he works for prison outreach. And so we started to make a course based on the book that would be like questions and reflections based on the chapters people would read, specifically for the prison system. And so we already rolled that out, and it's really exciting just to know that, like, almost get to interact with the population so far away from my life experience in this way, and to have them like request copies for their wives on the outside, or um and just the experience of like growth that I've been able to have myself, just interacting with this population and reading some of the responses to the questions that they've submitted and interacting in that way has been such a blessing. And it made me think maybe I should make like a study guide type content for everybody who's not in the system as well, just because it's been enriching for me just personally. I was like, wow, this is like really nice. Just the link outside was the organization I've been working with, and they did a wonderful job coming up with reflection questions. And so that's something I know that I want to do, just because I've done like book clubs with people, and it's been so awesome to interact with friend groups around the book. But then I thought, well, what if someone doesn't have a group of friends that are Muslim or can't do this? Like, is there a way that they could experience it without that? And I thought, so I've been working on that. But also, um, I've been working on a Quran typography book. That's the goal of it is just to give people like colorful ways of experiencing verses of the Quran on a daily basis. And my goal, even with Secrets of Divine Love, is like I always say, like the best compliment ever is when someone's like, "I was reading your book, and then I just felt like I should read the Quran." I'm like, "Yes, put my book down, put it on the shelf, like put the Quran, replace the Quran with it on your nightstand, like, because that's like there's no comparison." And so that's been like my favorite compliment ever. And so I want to find new ways to get people to turn back to the book, um, even if it's like in small doses. I think every thought and everything that made this book what it is those couple hundred Quran verses that are like framing the story through the book. Um, and so I just feel like those two projects are just two things that I've been working on, and really contemplating on how to be like feel a need in there somewhere. But really, I gotta say, like one of my favorite things out of this book, I think, is that people are reading it and then asking me, like, what did it take to write a book? And Muslims, like, all over the world have asked me, how I have a message in my heart, or I have a mission I feel like I'm called to, like, towards, but I don't know where to start. And when they look at, like, somebody who, like, has a big institute and writes a book, they can't relate to that person.
Mm,
But then they look at me and they're like, "You're a no pretty much a nobody to the internet's eyes, so I could do that too, like, maybe I can think and research and go learn and take classes," and so suddenly there's, like, this, and I think that that's really nice because I'm hoping that the book that changes a generation, if this book could inspire somebody else to make that generation-changing book, I would be so excited about that, and that's, like, another one of my prayers is that it opens the doors for people who are holding back the brilliance that I know lives in them, um, to come out. I'm just like, I would love that because I know we're limited in the English language with a lot of these types of books, so, um, that's definitely one of my prayers, and I've been sitting with maybe making a type of class or course or something to serve people on getting their mission out, because I think it's really important, especially amongst Muslims. I think that we face a lot of barriers and walls within our own communities, within ourselves, and within the larger community. So, um, yeah, I guess that's pretty much what I've been thinking about.
that's beautiful, and I'm so excited for all of your projects, especially the illustrations of the Quran. I have a few of your pieces personally, and for those of you tuning in, Helwa, mashallah, is a wonderful illustrator, a wonderful poet. As you can tell just by reading the book, she has a way with words, and how she describes certain ideas and concepts and brings them to life, which is what I personally appreciate so much about the book. So let's switch gears a little bit. So this book won the award for best devotional text.
Mm.
So where do you see, uh, or do you see a space in the future for Muslim women educators, becoming more involved in the space of devotion? You've
Mhm.
traveled around the world, you've met with many scholars, male and female. How's that space going to change in the next decade?
Hmm. That's a great question. I feel like there's definitely a big door that's open right now for women scholars. I've sat with a few incredibly brilliant women teachers, and the way they teach is different. I've sat with like husband and wife teams before. Very interesting to see how they hold space differently, how they support each other, and the roles they play there. I think the door is really open, and I feel like women are stepping out to share, um, to unveil and unlock the mercy and the softness and gentleness of the Quran. I feel like we've, in recent years more than ever, it's been strongly preached the justice elements, which are true, but I feel like now there's a wave coming of the mercy elements of the Quran to balance it out. And I'm hoping that somewhere in there we'll find this equilibrium. Um, and I found with women scholars, they have a way of touching something that's subtle in a different way. And I don't think it's about gender. I think it's just about life experience. It's about becoming a mother and something that happens in that process. It's being a daughter. It's about being a sister. It's about the positions that, Khadija played as a woman. She was a strong woman. She was a businesswoman, but she was the wife of the Prophet, peace be upon him. Right? The positions that Zainab played. She was a woman. She was feminine, but she was. had to play a very strong position in her life, witnessing atrocities that were difficult to witness. There's a mix of strength and softness that I think that women bring, and I think the door is open. And I feel like one of the things that has been such a gift for me is that the male scholars I came across left the door open for me to ask, to experience, and following every appropriate measure that the, the Quran and Islam has placed and held me with like sacredness and appropriateness as they help me understand things that maybe women didn't have access to, or at least I didn't have access to. So I feel like the role that um, male scholars have played continues to be important in keeping a door open, knowing that over half the population are women. And one of the main complaints is they don't have a space to learn. And so I think the male scholars who are open and allow female students to learn and keep the door open for them um, is so important as that ally. Um, because I think that we would have more women teachers, um, especially to address like female issues. I think there can be unique sometimes. And I think that door is open. I've seen some incredible women scholars, and I've been actually excited about one of the things I've been excited about is finding ways to bring their work to a wider audience. So that's something I've been thinking about because there's definitely some women that are unbelievable, like blow me away every time I talk to them for even 10 minutes. So I'd like to bring those teachings to a bigger and wider audience. Um, so inshallah, in the future, we will see more of those doors open, and we could be allies to those people and to celebrate their work, inshallah.
That's beautiful. One of the things I came across recently was this concept of being um, a strong man versus a man of strength, and being a strong woman versus a woman of strength. And I think in today's
Mm,
world, that idea of being a strong woman is perpetuated, but it's different than being a woman of strength. And
mm,
the role models that you cited, Lady Khadija, Lady Zainab, peace be upon them both, were more women of strength rather than strong women. And you're a
mm,
pioneer in that regard. I admire you for, mashallah, your strength, your courage, your bravery. Again, you've inspired so many women just in the circle of women that I've seen, helping them break through barriers and realize their value and their self-worth. And so inshallah you will, and you are a pioneer in that regard and a door opener, inshallah.
inshallah, alhamdulillah. Thank you. Mm.
So I wanted to switch, and maybe you can offer us just some practical advice in terms of, 2020 has been crazy to say the least. And obviously most people have stayed at home more, spent more time indoors than they have before, and people are looking for ways to keep their minds occupied, keep their heart occupied, keep their spirit occupied. And since this is a book that includes a lot of practical advice on devotion, what's one or two things that we can focus on individually to strengthen our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I know the book, if I'm not mistaken, was released the end of last year, correct? The end of 2019?
It was February of 2020.
February 2020. So right right before everything blew off. And so what I'm trying to ask is, in terms of the devotional practices, um, has anything changed? I mean, would you recommend anything different? What advice do you have for us? What practical advice?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel like one of the things that in the book, um, a lot of it is in a sense returning to your body in a way. Whether you're doing dhikr or which is like remembrance of God or muraqabah, like observing the day that you had. It's returning to your body, returning to your life, returning in reflection. And I find that one of the things that has happened as a result of 2020 is that people sort of are escaping reality because it's too painful to look at, maybe too painful to feel. And so I feel like one of the things that has been helpful to me is that really finding grounding. So going outside in a safe place, so you're not with a lot of people, could just be outside your house where you could see the sky and really feeling gravity gently press you into the earth and feeling that you're a body, that there's a force of creation pressing against you, and to really just be present with the way that the sun touches your skin, to return to your body, to feel what it feels like to be human, to be alive. And as you feel yourself grounding, to imagine that your feet are growing roots into the earth, and that these roots are just reaching deep in the earth and reaching out and just grounding you into this earth. And as you feel the sun, to just imagine yourself as this tree, with your hands wide, open in prayer, but open like leaves, receiving the light from above. And so as you stand here, as the human being, as the bridge between heaven and earth, you stand here as a human body, grounded in the earth, taking from the nutrients of the earth like a tree, and your hands reached out, receiving the light from above. And so you're reaching in and from above, in and from above, and you stand here like this tree as often as you need to remind yourself that you're human, that you're live in a body, that you're this tree rooted in this earth, receiving light from the heavens, that this is your relationship with the divine, that you're from the earth, but that you receive light, and the light helps you grow. And so when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you can't control anything, like everything is out of your control, that you return to your body and that you remember that you are a spirit, that you're a breath of God held in this mortal embrace of clay, and that you could root into this earth, and that you could open your hands in prayer like leaves and receive light. And that when that light comes in, it transforms you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you have or haven't done. That when you connect to Allah, that when you ask of Him, He answers. He says, "Call upon me, I'll answer." He says, "I chose you for myself." He says, "Don't fear, don't grieve. I'm with you. I'm with you." He says, "I am with you wherever you are." And so remembering that, no matter what's happening in the outside world, remembering that God is with you every step of the way. And doing that through these, like, maybe using this visual guidance. And alongside that, doing dhikr, calling upon God, calling upon Allah. And I like to say, like, I'll say the second thing is when you say Allah, Allah, when you say that word, when you observe how that tongue, al, rises up and hits the roof of your mouth, al, and that's you rising towards the heavens, asking, connecting, seeking, before you can la, before you can bring it back down, the tongue falls back down and expires out into space. You call to Allah, you ask of Him, you feel from Him, from the sky, from Him, and then you disperse and give. That when you walk, especially in this time, that you're not giving from the limited well of your being, but giving from that space. So you al, as the tongue rises to the roof, then drops down, la, get from the heavens and give to the earth. And then that's our calling, is to be in continual connection with the divine. And that if we're not, If we're not in connection, it's like pulling the um, turning off the water faucet. You know, the water is there. It's always there. You just have to turn it on. And the way that we turn that water on is by asking and seeking God. And so using Allah and saying dhikr again with that visualization, being aware of how the body moves when it says God. And and so I think those are maybe two slightly different ways of looking at it, aside from things that are mentioned in the book that I would recommend, especially for this time, and for people to be aware that the feelings that they feel, that those are just vehicles to a deeper unknown need within them, and that our emotions are not bad or good, but that they are these maps um, that turn us to this inner treasure inside of us, of this inner wisdom of a way in which God's speaking to us. And so to just the anger and the frustration and the sadness we feel, to not waste time in judgment of them, but to, when we identify them, to pause and to ask Allah to show us the deeper wisdom beneath our reactions, and to highlight the places inside of us that need to be purified and polished so that we can be a reflection, inshallah, of His love and mercy for all people without discrimination.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, wonderful advice. And it's so crazy how we take, just the smallest things such as the pronunciation, lafzul jalala, pronouncing the name of God, Allah, so lightly, and just the layers that you add to it, the layers of meaning. Just I'm moved, as you can tell. Um,
Alhamdulillah.
are there any final words that you want to share with people who are hearing your message today? I mean, you have so much abundance to give, mashallah. Anything that you want to leave us with? Any final thoughts?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think I would just say that you matter, that Allah sees you, that He hears you, that He knows the pain that you experience, that He knows the depth of it, that He hears the prayers you don't make, that He understands the feelings you don't understand, that every step of the way that He's with you. And when the entire world is asleep and has forgotten their own existence, that Allah is aware of your existence and that He loves you more than you could imagine, and that He's waiting for you to return to Him so that you could experience His love that He's always been pouring upon you, anyways. And so, my deep prayer for anyone listening is that they're reminded how special they are, how out of infinite possibilities God chose to create you, that He chose the color of your eyes, the color of your skin, that He chose the way that your hands would look, the way that your voice would sound, that everything about you is intentional, that nothing about you is an accident, and that He, the moment, like one Jewish mystic said, the moment that God created you was the moment He decided the world would be incomplete without you. And to remember that, and to remember the role and the sacred role that you play and that every other person in this world plays, and how special we are to Allah, and to hold each other with dignity and honor, inshallah.
Thank you so much. What an important message. Um, thank you. I'm truly inspired um, every time I get to hear from you. Every time we have our little conversations and exchanges, I really am inspired, and I thank you for being just a beacon of love and light and authenticity and vulnerability. I really, really do appreciate that about you, Helwa, and I'm very excited to see your reach and your influence continue, and for God to continue to make miracles happen through your work, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, and I'm so grateful to have you in my life, um, and it's such a gift. So I'm praying for you and your family every day, inshallah. Ameen.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. And again, I just wanted to congratulate you on receiving this award. And just on behalf of all the participants, thank you again for sharing your wisdom with us. And we look forward to learning so much more from you, inshallah, in the near future. But with that, my friends, participants, we bid you farewell. We hope the best for you. Inshallah, this has been beneficial. And this is Sayyid Mahdi Qazwini, and it's been an honor for me to have this conversation with Helwa. For those of you who haven't checked out the book, definitely check it out. I believe you also have Quran quotes daily on Instagram. So for those of you who want to follow Helwa, please go ahead and do that there. You're seeing on the screen right now the book, how you can order it. And yeah, with that, I mean, is there anything else that we should know that I've left out?
That's perfect on my end. Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, everyone. And take care, everybody. And Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum salam.